There is a particular anxiety that only legacy brands feel. It doesn't come from failing, it comes from surviving. When you've been around for decades, sometimes for nearly a century, your biggest fear isn't invisibility, it's irrelevance. The fear that the world has moved on while you are still standing exactly where you've always been. That fear does strange things to brands. It pushes them into redesigns no one asked for. It makes them chase platforms they don't understand, and it convinces them that relevance must look loud, young, fast, or radically different from what they've always been. And every few months, we see another familiar name try to reinvent itself. New logo, new tone, new positioning, hoping that change itself will signal modernity. But every now and then, a brand does something far more interesting. It doesn't change who it is, it doesn't touch its logo, it doesn't rewrite its message. It simply changes where it shows up. That's what KitKat did. Instead of a rebrand, it went to Formula One. And in doing so, it gave us one of the cleanest modern lessons in how legacy brands stay relevant without diluting what made them last in the first place. This episode isn't really about the chocolate, and it isn't really about racing. It's about restraint, about knowing when not to change, and about understanding that relevance is often a placement problem and not a brand problem. Welcome to Build to Brand. Longevity is a strange achievement. On paper, it's success, but culturally, it can start to feel like a liability. The longer a brand survives, the more it risks being seen as dated, predictable, background noise, something you grew up with, but not something you actively choose anymore. This is where dilution often begins. Not because the brand is weak, but because it loses confidence in its own continuity. Legacy brands start asking the wrong question. How do we look new again instead of the right one, which is, where should we belong now? KitKat is nearly 90 years old. Its tagline, have a break, have a KitKat, has existed for decades. Its red packaging is instantly recognizable across continents. Its product has barely changed in any meaningful way. By modern branding logic, it should have been restless by now. But KitKat didn't chase novelty, it chased context. And that distinction matters more than most branding conversations admit. Before we talk about what KitKat did, it's worth sitting with what it very intentionally didn't do. It didn't modernize its logo. No flattened identity, no minimalist typography, no digital-first visual refresh meant to signal relevance. It didn't reposition its message. There was no new manifesto about hustle culture, productivity, or ambition. No attempt to sound profound or reinvent what the brand stands for. It didn't pretend to be something it isn't. KitKat didn't suddenly become premium or edgy or iconic. It didn't chase streetwear culture or internet slang. Instead, it did something that looks almost passive on the surface, but is deeply strategic underneath. It changed the stage. Let's talk about the trap. Most legacy brands believe relevance is something you manufacture internally. You gather teams, you hire agencies, you run workshops, you redesign. Relevance becomes a project, but relevance doesn't work like that. Relevance is not something you declare. It's something other people feel. And the fastest way to lose it is to overcorrect. We have seen this play out repeatedly. A brand notices younger audiences drifting away. It panics, it updates its look, it changes its tone. It abandons the very signals that made it trustworthy in the first place. The result is often worse than stagnation. Because now the brand isn't old, it's confused. And confusion is harder to recover from than age. The real trap is mistaking visibility for relevance. Legacy brands assume that if they are not being talked about, they must change how they look or what they say. But often, the issue isn't the message. It's the room they are saying it in. KitKat didn't rewrite its story. It relocated it. Formula One is one of the most high pressure environments in modern sport. Speed, precision, constant attention, global scrutiny. It's a world defined by milliseconds, and into that world walks a brand whose core promise is a break. That contrast is not accidental, it's the point. KitKat didn't need to explain itself, it didn't need a new slogan. Its message, pause, step back, take a break, becomes sharper when placed inside an ecosystem obsessed with speed. That's what great placement does. It reframes meaning without rewriting it. This wasn't a logo and a banner deal. In 2026, KitKat entered its first full season as the official chocolate partner of Formula One, activating across 12 global races. That detail matters because this wasn't a one-off stunt or a market-specific experiment. It was a globally coordinated commitment. The partnership officially kicked off at the Formula One Qatar Airways Australian Grand Prix, and from there it expanded into a multi-layered presence that went far beyond trackside visibility. KitKat didn't just appear in Formula One, it integrated. Across the season, the collaboration includes immersive fan zone activations, in-store retail tie-ins aligned with race calendars, limited edition products inspired by F1 design language, digital campaigns tied into F1's global content ecosystem, select placements during Netflix's Drive to Survive. This is important because KitKat didn't rely on nostalgia to justify its presence. It used modern distribution, modern media, and modern fan behavior without modernizing its brand identity. One of the quiet strengths of this partnership is how KitKat handled product innovation, not by reinventing the bar, but by contextualizing it. As a part of the collaboration, KitKat introduced its first ever molded chocolate shaped like a Formula One car, a marbled KitKat chunky visually referencing speed and motion. These weren't premium line extensions, they weren't repositioning plays. They were contextualized adaptations. The chocolate was still unmistakably KitKat. Same taste profile, same accessibility, same tone. But the form factor borrowed just enough from Formula One to feel timely. That's Restraint again. Innovation that acknowledges context without abandoning core identity. To understand why this partnership works, you have to understand what Formula One represents today. Formula One is no longer just motorsport. It's media, it's fashion, it's technology, and it's global entertainment. Over the last decade, F1 has deliberately repositioned itself through digital storytelling, through behind-the-scenes access, through cultural crossovers. Netflix's Drive to Survive didn't just bring in new fans, it redefined who Formula One is for. Suddenly, F1 wasn't just inherited fandom, it was discovered fandom. For brands, that shift matters enormously because F1 now offers something rare, modern culture relevance with institutional credibility. That combination is gold for legacy brands. Think about other F1 partnerships. Rolex didn't become modern by changing its watches. It became modern by placing timeless precision inside a contemporary speed narrative. Louis Vuitton didn't chase youth culture directly. It entered F1 to reinforce craftsmanship, heritage, and global prestige without explanation. Tag Heuer didn't reinvent timekeeping. It simply showed up where time is measured obsessively. These brands didn't dilute themselves. They let Formula One frame them. KitKat belongs in that lineage, not in product category, but in strategic thinking. Context does the heavy lifting that design often tries to do. When a brand enters new culture environment, it borrows meaning from that environment. Formula One brings with it global reach, youthful digital native audiences, cultural prestige, a sense of modernity and momentum. By associating with F1, KitKat didn't say it was modern, it let the context imply it. That's far more powerful than any redesign could be because context is believed, design is evaluated. Relevance is rarely about what you say, it's about where you say it. Most brands don't need reinvention, they need relocation. They don't need new logos, they need new stages. KitKat didn't change, the world around it did, And instead of fighting that shift, it stepped into it with restraint. That's how brands last. That's how brands stay relevant. And that's what it means to be truly built to brand. If this episode resonated, share it with someone working on a brand that feels the pressure to reinvent. Sometimes the smartest move isn't change, it's placement. This is Tanvi, and I'll see you in the next episode of Built to Brand.